Have you ever wondered why we sometimes repeat behaviors we see in others, even when we know they are wrong? Like when a child shouts because they saw adults arguing, or when we start using someone's tone or expressions unconsciously. Today, I'll be talking about one of the most famous studies that explained this phenomena, the Bobo Doll Experiment by Albert Bandura. And as a psychologist, I'll also help you understand what it means for us in therapy, parenting, and real life. So do watch this video till the end. So let's talk about this experiment. In 1961, psychologist Albert Bandura, he wanted to study how children learn behaviors by simply observing others, even without direct reinforcement. So, for this, he brought a group of children into a lab. Then he divided those children into groups and showed them a short film of adults that were interacting with a toy, and the name of that toy was Bobo Doll. And that is why the name came the Bobo Doll Experiment. And it was conducted in 1961. So, what happened was, in one group, the adults were behaving very aggressively with that doll. They were hitting that doll, they were kicking, they were yelling at that doll. And in another group, the adults were very gentle, very calm, they were playing very sweetly with that doll. Later, when the children were allowed to play in the same room and with the same doll, the results was fascinating. Not fascinating, but shocking actually. Why shocking? Because the children who saw the adult behaving aggressively, they imitated the same aggression, the same behavior with the doll. They were also kicking the doll, hitting the doll, abusing the doll. And the children that saw a film where the adults were very gentle, very calm with the doll, they were also calm, they were also gentle with that doll. Now, this study showed that behavior can be learned through observation also, and not just through rewards or punishment. So, why Bandura did this particular experiment? Why he conducted this? Actually, at that time, behaviorism was led by psychologists like Skinner, Watson, and they said that we only learn from direct experience. You do something, you get reward or punished, and you learn accordingly. But Albert Bandura challenged this. He said we don't live in isolation. We constantly observe people around us, like our parents, peers, media, society, and that observation alone shapes our behavior. So he developed the concept of observation learning or social learning theory, which says we learn by observing, imitating, and modeling others, especially we see those behavior being rewarded. So now let's talk about this particular theory and the four process that talks about how we learn something by observing. So now let's talk about these four process which Bandura identified as four essential steps in the learning process, and which are relevant, very relevant in therapies also and personal growth. Now, in that, the first one is attention. It means that we can only learn if we pay attention to the things around us. And that's why being mindful of what or whom we are focusing on really matters a lot. Children observing violence or adults surrounded by negativity are consciously learning that. The second one is retention, means we store what we observe in our memory, and every interaction leaves an imprint in our brain. The third one is reproduction. We then try to replicate that behavior. If the behavior seems easy or beneficial or interesting for that matter, we are more likely to repeat that behavior again. And the fourth one is motivation, means we imitate behaviors that are rewarded or admired. So if aggression leads to power or laughter, kids will copy that. And if kindness is praised, kids will copy that also. So, as a psychologist, I see this experiment as a mirror to how our environment and relationships shape who we become. In therapies, we often work with clients who learned unhealthy patterns like emotional suppression, aggression, people pleasing by observing caregivers or other people around them. They didn't choose those behavior consciously, but they learned them through modeling basically. And this Bobo doll experiment remind us that behavior is learned and therefore it can also be unlearned and or relearned. That is the foundation of behavioral therapy, social skills training, and even role modeling techniques we use in counseling. So, when clients observe healthy behaviors, whether through the therapist, support groups, family members, they start internalizing those patterns. It is also very deeply relevant for parenting and education because children are watching us constantly. They are actually learning things by observing, by watching us rather than what we are saying to them. So if they are saying like how we handling our anger, stress, disappointments, so that our behavior of that becomes a reference point for our children. And Bandura's theory beautifully explained this also, why do as I say, not do as I do never works. Children even adults also learn for what they see and not for what they are being told to do. You know, in today's world where social media, digital content, influences are constantly, Bandura's findings are very powerful. If exposure to aggression in 1961 made children imitate violence, imagine the impact what we are exposed to today, like violence, comparison, unrealistic ideals. As a psychologist, our work also involves helping people build conscious awareness of what they are observing, what they are consuming, because what we repeatedly watch, we gradually become that. We gradually start imitating that thing and inculcate those behaviors in ourselves. So, this particular experiment, the Bobo doll experiment, wasn't just about children hitting a doll. It was a doorway into understanding actually how human learn, model, and grow. It tells us the change that begins with awareness of what we see, what we imitate, and what we reinforce in others. As Bandura beautifully said, people are producers as well as product of social media. If we want a kinder world, we must model kindness first. And that is the real lesson of this Bobo doll experiment. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found this insightful. Do share it because the more we understand how we learn our behavior, the better we can shape our healthier minds and relationships. Subscribe for more psychology explained in simple and meaningful ways.